The top business stories live from the Sky newsroom. Bad news for the Chancellor as the UK economy defies expectation and shrinks for the second month in a row. Is the UK becoming a country of coffee drinkers despite soaring bean prices? We'll be hearing from the chairman of Levi. And we'll also be hearing from the company hoping to end the pollution of these things. Cigarette butts up and down the country. Very good afternoon on this Friday, Business Live with me, Darren McCaffrey. Before we get on to that business news, just to bring you up to date with a little bit of breaking news from Wimbledon, and that is to say that Carlos Alcaraz has beaten Taylor Fritz in the first semi-final of Wimbledon and is obviously through to the Wimbledon men's single final on Sunday. A thrilling game this afternoon at the All England Club. But Carlos Alcaraz is through to that final, of course, the world number 2, but also the defending champion. Now, let's move on to less good news for us in the UK, at least, anyway, because the economy shrank for the second consecutive month in May. The contraction comes despite the worst of US President Donald Trump's tariffs having been paused. But the figures released today also show that the economy actually grew in the 3 months to May this year, boosted by growth a little earlier in February and March. Well, delighted to say we can speak to Michael Brown, who is from Franklin Templeton, and he joins us now. Very good afternoon to you, as always, Michael. And let's be honest about this, Rachel Reeves has not had the easiest of times recently, and this is the last thing she wanted to hear.
Yes, Darren, it's another set of really poor numbers. And I think when you look underneath them, they get worse again. We had awful April. We've got maudlin May. I think we've got joyless June to come in front of us because it's the retail sector, it's the consumer that's really down on their uppers at this point in time and showing some really big negative month-on-month falls. And we're beginning to start to see pressure on the year-on-year numbers. And I just don't see it ending.
Yeah, that's interesting, though, isn't it? Because services have held up reasonably well. Construction, manufacturing really taking a hammering. Why no optimism moving into the second half of this year?
Well, the service bit's held up because the IT piece is held up, and I think that's related to the whole AI investments and the data centres and the really fast developments we've got in that particular area at this moment in time. The construction side peaked out in March, and that seems pretty clear. And although new orders are a little bit better, and there's been a fraction better news in terms of reservations from the house builders this week, really the construction industry at these interest rates is going nowhere fast, I'm afraid. And with business investments also falling at this point in time, construction again comes under real pressure on that side as well. So everywhere you look, there's these little pockets of negativity, I'm afraid. And I don't see how we get a positive quarter this quarter, although the Bank of England is still excited by it. And certainly Q3 could be just as difficult.
And this obviously leads into the autumn budget, and that's not great news for Rachel Reeves because she already had very little headroom, given some of the U-turns on welfare. That essentially has gone away entirely, and there's going to have to be some difficult decisions to be made.
Yeah, there's no headroom, and there's a big talk about a number of different taxes that could come through, even after the Prime Minister said at question time, you can't tax your way to growth. But you can tax your way to your fiscal rules, except it will just hold your economy back. The player here is the Bank of England. The player here needs to come to the table is the Bank of England. And a bit like the Grand Old Duke of York, it's marched interest rates up 500 basis points in 18 months, but it's marching them down very, very slowly.
Well, Michael, the one bit of optimism is that every time we talk to you, it is always glorious weather down there in Brighton. Thank you very much indeed for joining us, Michael Brown there.
Thanks, Joe.
Now, to talk about Wimbledon, weren't we? The weekend, of course, is going to see the finals at the All England Tennis Club. And they've been synonymous, haven't they, with strawberries and cream. But it is the UK's love of coffee that's continuing to grow, despite soaring bean prices. Italian coffee giant Levi aims to capitalise on that Wimbledon magic. And a little earlier, I had a chance to speak to the chairman, Giuseppe Levi, to ask him why tennis and coffee.
When we started in 2011, we didn't know that coffee could have a connection with tennis because coffee in tennis was absolutely unpopular. No one was thinking about coffee. But after 15 years, we can say that we win our match. And the match, coffee and tennis, is absolutely perfect because we share the same value of this fantastic sport.
There is little doubt we've seen coffee prices rise quite substantially in the last couple of years. Why is that? Why is coffee getting more expensive?
There are many reasons, but the most important one is what happened in the most important coffee-producing countries, Brazil, Vietnam. Weather-related causes created conditions for poor harvest during the last 4 years. And even geopolitical crisis around the world connected, for example, at the Suez Canal with a lot of trouble and issue to deliver coffee in Europe. Speculation as well took an important role in this arena. So many factors, mainly the fact that the two most important coffee-producing countries weren't able to provide enough quantity of coffee for a demand that is always growing.
We talk a lot about the challenges facing different industries in different parts of the world. And I think it's fair to say, isn't it, the coffee industry very concerned, obviously, about those tariffs from the United States, but also about regulation too, particularly European Union regulation. Is that right?
There are two main issues, of course. Tariff. We don't know how Mr. Trump is going to apply his plan of tariffs towards Europe, but also towards many other developing countries that notably are quite involved in the production of green coffee. So this is one of our big concerns, but we're ready, of course, to answer to this thanks to our agility. We think that maybe our plan to start production in the US is already on the table, has to be accelerated to try to avoid some issues related to tariff. The UDR regulation is another main concern. For the time being, has been delayed for 1 year. It can be implemented starting from 2026. A lot of trouble, of course, especially for many green coffee producing countries to apply to the regulation, and the distortion that the regulation can introduce in the market are quite significant.
You know what, when I was a kid, we were kind of told that Britain was a tea-drinking nation, but it now seems that we're not really, that actually we've fully embraced coffee. Are we now essentially a coffee-drinking nation like Italy or France, for example?
It's more and more a coffee-drinking nation and a real coffee. I mean, a roast and ground coffee-drinking nation. And notably in the UK, the instant coffee is still quite important. It's 50% of the global market. But the other two categories, the ground coffee and the single serves, are growing quite a lot and are having more and more space in the mindset of coffee consumers and coffee lovers. And
just very finally, how does, if you like, the king of coffee drink his coffee, and how many do you have a day?
I definitely love pure espresso, a little bit de ristretto. I like coffee, not water, in my cup. And the range is between 3 and 6 espresso per day. Lavazza, of course.
I mean, that is a lot of coffee, isn't it? But from a global coffee brand to another massive global brand, that is Levi Strauss, because it's raised its annual revenue and profit forecasts after beating quarterly estimates. The brand, of course, synonymous with denim, reported strong sales in regions such as Europe, even in the face of that tariff uncertainty. Well, delighted to say we can speak to Michelle Cass, who is the chief executive of Levi's and is live for us in San Francisco. A very good morning to you, Michelle. And Levi's is such a phenomenal global brand, isn't it? Denim sometimes does ebb and flow in and out of fashion, but you guys have managed to stay top of the tree. How have you done that?
Yeah, so it's great to be here today. And we love talking about denim. Well, to take a step back, I mean, Levi's invented this category. We've been around for 170 years, and it's been our responsibility to generation after generation make denim relevant. And I'm super proud of the efforts of the team. As you said, we just posted tremendous results, and it's all driven by our strategies. And that's number one, to really become a best-in-class direct-to-consumer retailer, so we get to engage with that consumer directly every day. And second, to go from the best pair of jeans in the world to head to toe denim lifestyle. And I'm happy to say it's working.
It's interesting you talk about kind of direct retail, because we're looking at pictures at the moment, Michelle, of some of your stores. And is that still really important that you sell directly to the consumer? The high street here in the UK has been under pressure as people have moved online, but people do still love to go out and buy clothes they can touch, feel, and try on first.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely right. And for us, we want to meet our consumers wherever they want to buy their Levi's, and that's across many channels around the world. But I agree. I think the ultimate experience, especially when you're shopping for clothes or jeans. I mean, buying jeans can be a bit intimidating to find that perfect fit, that perfect pair. And our stylists are incredible to work with our fans. But from bringing the stories to life to outfitting head to toe, and of course, welcoming them, like I said, in our stores and online, and even in our wholesale channels, they're all important.
And what about some of the challenges? I talked briefly there about tariffs. Would that have an impact? I know there's a lot of uncertainty, isn't there?
Yeah, so as we shared yesterday, we're driving our results, with tariffs happening. And I would say a couple things. I mean, clearly the situation remains fluid. What we've assumed in our numbers are what we know today, which is the 30% tariff on goods from China into the US and the 10% from the rest of the world. And, for us, I'd say we're competitively advantaged. Number one, 60% of our business is actually outside the US. Number two, our exposure to China, which right now has that highest level, is pretty limited. And then the third point I'd make is that we've got a incredibly diversified supply chain. We have these decade-long relationships, and all of those things are helping us, like I said, give us a competitive advantage, and we're taking action. Number one, it does start with those great vendor relationships. Second, we're being very thoughtful on pricing, just surgical. And our consumers today are already buying more full price goods. So that's helping us. And then we're doing our part and looking at our own cost base.
OK, and just very finally, Michelle, in many ways, maybe it's just me personally, but I associate denim particularly with the 1990s. There's another thing we associate in the UK here with the 1990s, and that is very much Oasis. And there's, I want to say, is there a connection, a familiarity, if you like, between two incredible brands?
Yeah, well, we're very proud to be part of Oasis's return to the stage after about 15 years. But for us, this is really about being at the center of culture, and it's defined this brand for years. And we do lots of things around music, like Oasis, fashion. We have great collaborations. We just had a real successful one with Sakai, a fantastic Japanese designer. And sports. And just yesterday, we dropped early days, but very successful collaboration with Nike. So it is about creating that brand heat. And we do that, like I said, through collaborations, through the exciting products and the innovation that we drive. And that drives a lot of relevance for us.
Great stuff. Thank you very much indeed, Michelle Gaster, the Chief Executive of Levi's, live from California. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, let's talk about football, because fantasy football fans will soon be able to create custom badges and kits for their teams through the Premier League's new offering with Adobe and the firm's generative AI. And I had a chance this week to sit down with Will Brass. He's the Premier League's Chief Commercial Officer, and Simon Morris, the Vice President of International Marketing at Adobe, to hear about how these new digital experiences will work for fans.
Over the last couple of years, we've been engaging in a digital transformation program to make the Premier League more appealing, more accessible to fans around the world. That's involved a total reworking of our digital channels, and Adobe are going to be a really critical part of that, both in terms of providing back-end support through the Adobe Enterprise platform, and also through the Adobe Express offering powered by Firefly Gen AI, which will allow fans to engage with the Premier League as never before.
And Simon, what does that mean? I mean, when we talk about this, like, you know, people watching at home, what is this technology going to enable them to do?
With the Adobe Experience platform, we're going to be helping the Premier League deeply understand their fans all around the world. 1.8 billion fans, deeply understand their preferences, how they like to engage, what type of content they like to receive, and then once they have that understanding, then helping them create and serve up the right content at the right time for those fans. So it's really about deepening that fan engagement and creating a much better experience for the fans, no matter where they are.
And when you talk about content, I mean, most people, when they think about content, think about goals going in the back of the net. I mean, rewatching clips, but what else is this? Is this, you know, people able to create their own teams? And how does that interact with, you know, the games and stuff that are already around?
So it's absolutely going to be like in-match content, could be news, score results and things like that, but we're actually embedding Adobe Express into the Fantasy Premier League. So when the new season starts, fans will be able to create their team, but then design their badge in Adobe Express using a simple prompt, which is empowered by Firefly models, which are commercially safe and IP friendly. Then they'll get some output based on what they've typed in. They can then choose if they like that badge. That becomes their badge for their team.
What would you say, though, that, you know, most fans would want to just go and watch a game, and they would say, and you know, this is true, we've seen prices increase, that actually it's prohibitively expensive to go and watch a Premier League football game these days, that rather than digitally wanting to engage with the Premier League, they want to do this in person, and yet they can't?
Well, of course, the live match experience is always at the absolute core of the fan experience and how fans want to engage with their clubs. The club ticket pricing is obviously a matter for those teams. We've worked with the clubs over time, particularly around the away ticket pricing cap, to help make ticketing accessible. But the live match experience is only one part of a fan journey and the immersion that they're able to enjoy.
And where is the growth for the Premier League? Because there's 1.8 billion fans. Are there more to be found out there?
Over the last 4 years, I think 34% of that 1.8 billion have discovered the Premier League for the first time. So we're seeing sustained growth on a global scale, and of course here in the UK. I think there's two things that we can do. One is reach more fans, bring more fans into the competition, as I've said. And the other is to allow them to deepen that experience and deepen the engagement.
And I assume, though, that, you know, aside from these innovations and collaborations, the TV, I assume, still remains the main way that most people engage with the Premier League.
The live match experience is always going to be critical. Enjoying the live game through our broadcast partners is at the heart of fan enjoyment. But in recent years, it's become clear that we can do much more to augment that. And that's really some of the work that we're talking about today with Adobe.
And just very finally, just on the kind of, you know, the future of the Premier League, are you guys going to be doing this more often, kind of collaborations, not just with technology companies? Where are you hoping to see even more kind of revenue, if you like? And is that possible in the UK today, given, you know, the struggles that we've seen economically over the last couple of years?
Well, this is a global partnership with Adobe. I think we count ourselves very fortunate. We work with some really world-class businesses and brands, not just in the UK, but on an international scale. A lot of what we can do is make sure that we have the right strategic relationships to help the Premier League continue to grow. Some of those are deeply entrenched, with Sky, for example, with some of our broadcast partners. Others of them are newer and in line with new and emerging strategies to adapt to changing times.
There you go. OK, you're watching Business Live on this Friday afternoon. Up next, we're going to be speaking to a company that is apparently trying to call an end to plastic in these things, those rather awful, disgusting-looking cigarette butts. We'll be talking about that after this quick break. Do stay tuned.
Our app gives you the very best of Sky News wherever you are. Breaking news, videos and analysis.
Evidence of the crisis.
Podcasts, watching us live.
Live here from Washington.
Wherever you get your podcast.
All in one place. And all at just the touch of a screen. The Sky News app. Get the full story first.
We are under Israeli military restrictions in terms of some of the things that we can film, but it's important to be in there. What a slow drive for the president as he approaches his golf club. 4 more years! Free wherever you get your news. I'm Mark Stone and I'm Sky's correspondent based here in Washington, D.C.
Turkey is burying its dead. Whole families died in this collapse. Generations wiped out. I'm Siobhan Robbins, Sky's Europe correspondent based here in Berlin. This is just a small sample of the deadly arsenal taken off the streets.
Anyone could say, I'll do that, and then have to go and shoot someone.
Yes.
Sky News, get the full story first.
Now, very welcome back. We often discuss, don't we, the implications, of course, of smoking on your health, but we don't really give much attention to the impact it does have on the environment, because most cigarette filters contain around 2 straws worth of plastic. Now, there's a firm called Green Butts. It's trying to essentially get rid of some of that as an issue, effectively make biodegradable filters. And delighted to say we can speak to Tadas Ms. Okas, who is the founder and chief executive of Green Butts and joins us, as you can see, from San Diego. Very good afternoon to you. Just tell us what you guys are trying to do here.
Yeah, so our company was founded back in 2010 when single-use plastics weren't really top of mind. We wanted to make an alternative to the most littered single-use plastic item in the world, which is the cigarette butt. So over about 6 or 7 years of R&D, and we've had partnered with a company in Leeds, actually. So it's and our manufacturing is done in Devon. So it's even though we're a San Diego company, we do have ties to the UK, which is great. And now that you've got the vapes and tobacco bill being debated in Parliament, it's very much topical. So hopefully we get some traction.
Because it is the concern here that effectively this product is available, but cigarette companies are effectively saying, we're not interested, we don't want to go down that line.
Well, I think, when you have an entrenched, industry such as tobacco and cigarettes, it's a very well-oiled machine, and any change is obviously going to disrupt a bit. So obviously there's upfront cost to make a change as big as changing a component such as the filter. But I think on balance, it's definitely something that needs to be done. It's completely avoidable, and we have a product that can actually be a viable option. So, legislation seems to be the big push. I think there's consumer demand as well for more biodegradable and green options. So I think, hopefully with this bill passage, we'll get there. And I think the UK is in a very unique position to be the first in the world to actually mandate this, or at least, regulate the cellulose acetate filter. Yeah. And I think many countries will follow thereafter.
And Tadas, this is a big problem in the sense that I think something like nearly 4 million cigarette butts are littered every day here in the UK.
Yeah, that's true. So globally, you're looking at about 5.5 trillion that are produced, and most of that is littered. I'd say anywhere from 65 to 70% are littered. A lot of that had to do with the indoor smoking bans that came into effect in the early 2000s. So smokers were pushed outdoors where there's either not enough receptacles or no receptacles. And then, most people don't even know that the current filters are plastic.
Yeah, I know.
They think it's either paper or cotton or something like that. So I think there's the lack of knowledge, by the smokers themselves. They think it's very innocuous.
It's a big issue.
Just toss it.
Tadas, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you very much indeed. Live there from San Diego. Thank you.
Thank you.
OK, that is it from me on Business Live. We're back, of course, on Monday. Do join me then. Up next, Jonathan Samuels with the News Hour. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the weather. Goodbye.